you so much for joining me.
Of course.
Oh, well, good. Thank you.
Of course, John.
I suppose I ought to ask you, what was that like at that time? I suppose junior high, high school, media had influenced you in a certain way. Family or people in your environment or around you, had shaped you in a certain way. So what kind of person were you at that time?
Yeah, I didn't really have a lot of friends in junior high. I was grotesquely unpopular,
What?
really awkward. In fact, Mr. Ingersoll, do you remember Mr. Ingersoll? He was on the Minnesota, or excuse me, the Moorhead community, community leadership board and everything. The city commission, that's what I couldn't think of. Anyway, he was like my best friend. I loved talking to him. My locker was by his classroom, and he had his newspaper and desk out every day. He'd be hanging out. So I always look forward to saying hi to him. And the janitor, Jim, I always talked to him. I was that kid that talked to the janitor. And I had some really negative encounters with people in junior high. I really just didn't have a support circle, which is why media was so important to me. I had all my movies, right? I didn't need friends because I could go home and watch Lethal Weapon or Cliffhanger, and they were my friends, Mel Gibson and Stallone and, and,
Yeah.
And I watched a lot of X-Files. Yeah.
Get the floor up in here! Rick, get in here! Now!
Only if you let me drive. Move over, I'll drive.
Go around the other side.
He's getting
no,
away.
Go around the other side. I'm driving.
I'll drive.
Damn,
I'll
Rick.
drive.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I don't know, I had some pretty weird encounters. I was very boyish. One time there was, I remember, I don't know if this is weird or too much information. I'm just bringing up my weird scars. There was this kid standing in front of my locker, and he was in the way. And so I was like, excuse me, I need to get into my locker. And he turned around and looked at me, and he's like, you want to fight about it? And I was like, no, I just want to get my books. And he said, and I remember the way he said it was like, oh shit, I didn't realize you were a girl. And then he just left me alone. And that's pretty much quintessentially describes my high school or my junior high experience. They got a little progressively better in high school, but it was still kind of and that's fine. I never really and not to get too weird on gender, but I never really looked, like a girl, stereotypical, socially accepted idea of female. I've always had short hair. I always dressed weird. And especially I was very physically, I didn't look like a girl until later in high school. I was a late whatever. And so
Sure.
So that was kind of just there was a lot of things in junior high that I wanted to participate in. I wanted to get into the dance team and cheerleading, and I was just constantly rejected. And so I felt my physical appearance, I didn't think there's anything really wrong with it, because I was kind of just whatever, I don't care. Because I don't know, I think I had a lot of unearned confidence. I just decided that I didn't care what other people thought of me. And I think maybe that was my protection barrier as well, that after feeling rejected, I became the rejecter. And so I was kind of a loner. So media played a really important part in my life, I think, because that was my outlet. Mm-hmm. I wrote poetry. I read a lot of books. I listened to a lot of music, and I watched a lot of movies.
I'm cutting away. Snip. See? All done. Raj. Yeah. Grab the cat. Grab the cat. Get back! Take back!
Yes.
Sorry, that was a really long answer to a really short question, which is what I always do with you. I'm sorry.
I do believe it was that was the length it was supposed to be. I'm thinking of Lord of the Rings. That's what I'm thinking of. And so thank
Wait,
you.
are we talking about the film version or the book version? Because
So I'm thinking of the film. Because we're talking about films, I'm thinking of the film.
yeah, because I'm because the film version, although it was very long, was mildly truncated. There were a lot of things left out. which is what my explanation also was. So, yeah.
Legend tells of a ring created by an ancient evil that gave its wearer the power to enslave the world. Believed lost for centuries, it has now been found.
Is it secret? Is it safe?
Oh, that's great. And then now thinking of that, like I saw Fellowship of the Ring, and as far as I know, I did bring this up to you. Like after I had just seen it, I hadn't read any of the books, but I was kind of like, this is a lot like Willow.
Yeah.
And I thought like they ripped off Willow.
Yeah, because it's like, you just like, because you only know like the media that you've been exposed to at that point. It's like, this is just a Willow ripoff, when really it's like, well, this book was written quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Oh, Willow is so, I love Willow.
Yeah, I was just listening to the theme to that, or like the main theme. I think it's
Oh, you were just getting into like the minor keynote change, which is my favorite part. Da, da, da. Yeah.
And then the scene where Val Kilmer or Mad Mardigan, you know, is twirling his sword, and he's like, and then Willow's like, "You are a great swordsman." He's like, over.
I remember watching that movie when I was little, and I was worried that the baby was just being like manhandled too much, you know, like, and that's because like I was like way too analytical even as a child. I was like, that baby's getting tossed around and has like weird oil put on it, and like, you know, like it's not gonna be normal after this, like, you know, like I was thinking about the baby, you know, like just like strapped to someone's back climbing a mountain, like what is happening? I don't know why I told you that.
Oh, no, thank you for telling me that. So being an educator yourself, do you attempt to impart some of this to people? And I'm not saying you get up in front of a classroom and start talking about your life or your life story.
My students would be asleep. They'd be like, this old lady, no.
This old lady?
I mean, I'm not one of those like 30-somethings who's like, oh, I'm so old. But like, you know, compared to my students, I am old enough to be their mom, like technically. You know, most of my students are like 18 or 19. I'm going to be 39 this year. Like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
But I do like, I don't know. And that's kind of on a side note. That's where like I have this thing where like I always want to treat my students like adults, like they're people, you know, they're not in high school anymore. But I also need to like keep that boundary where like I'm not their friend, you know, I'm still their teacher. And so like I always, and I have a lot of moments with students, especially students who are going through things in life and they want to talk to me about why they're missing certain, like, you know, some students missing a week of school or something like that. And I'll always tell them, like, you do not owe me an explanation. I trust that you're an adult. You don't have to explain anything to me. But if you want someone to talk to who might be able to like guide you towards student resources, I'm here, you know, because I just think in high school, so many students felt like they had to like give the teacher an explanation why they weren't there. But now I'm like, you know what, if you're going through something, like, you don't owe me anything, just get your work in on time. But not a lot of teachers are like that too, so I understand. Anyway, so those are the moments where I feel like I don't impart a lot of myself to the class in a lecture style. Like when I'm presenting my lecture, there might be like little notes about who I am and what I like in my lectures. Like there's a presentation I really enjoy giving my students when I talk about integrating quotations into writing and the importance of like explication and introduction and like how to paraphrase without, you know, being plagiarizing. And I have this clip that I show from Good Will Hunting, and then I use that clip and I offer all these different examples, and then I show them how to cite it. That's probably the closest I get on like a lecture wide level where they get to know anything about me, is like the materials and references that I include. I don't know if that was like too much, but
I do believe that was I'm thinking about that. Like I've been in those situations too, where students have needed to have, I don't know, a really I say intimate, but I don't mean romantic, but just very personal, very private sort of conversation. about what's going on in their lives. And often for me, it begins with them just kind of, I don't know, I'll be cleaning up after I've been, instructing.
Yeah.
And then like one student will kind of hang around.
That's how it happens with me too. Like I'm wrapping up, shutting the projector off.
Yep. And there's one student kind of, just lingering. People are leaving. And then often the student will leave with them, but then come back.
Yeah.
And then as I'm doing something, the student will say, this is going on. And so I don't even have a moment to kind of prepare for what we're going to be talking about.
Same. Those moments are intense because you never know what's coming.
Oh, sure.
You just got done teaching class. You're like, all right, what am I going to do with the rest of my day now? I have to go get ready for my next class. Or it's like, yeah, there's where this poor student's probably been sitting through the whole class all day, imagining the interaction and how they're going to approach you and talk about it. And if they want to, or maybe it was a spur of the moment thing. I don't know. But yeah, I really like how you point out, like there's no prep for this. It's just like,
well, yes. And so now I just anticipate it all the time with each person that I'm going to be meeting, that this person is going to, I don't know, reveal something or confess something, that I don't know about me, like if I'm supposed to know it or not, I'm not going to judge whether I'm supposed to know it or not, because the person's just telling me anyway,
I don't know, moments like that where like, if I can use any of my experience to help a student, I will. Just like, it's a soup. It's just a soup of it all. A soup of emotions. And I don't know. I like using the word soup when there's a lot going on.
Sure. Thank you so much for that. Because it's kind of like, I was going to talk about how dramatic doesn't have to be good or bad. It's just,
yeah, it doesn't have to be good or bad. There's just a lot of different things.
Yes, but no, let's just talk about soups instead. So
it's a soup.
Oh my gosh, I was just going to talk about food that I've been eating.
Hey, I'm here for the long haul.
Oh my goodness.
Unless you need to go. I respect your time.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I do need to. Here, I'm going to stop this recording.